Well, hello, everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I'm really looking forward to you getting to know today Martin Altman. Welcome, Martin. Glad you're here.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, and so Martin and I were just reminiscing before we started recording, and we have met each other at one of our mutual friends, Whitney Owens, who does the Wise Practice conference every year and has the Wise Practice podcast. So shout out to Whitney on this episode. But Martin, as I start with everyone, tell folks a little more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed.
Yeah, man, where to start's a little bit of a awkward question there in my mind. I like to say that I started becoming a therapist. I graduated 2011, just did various forms of, work out in the field, and then realized that while I was doing private practice, realized that I was someone with ADHD, and suddenly light bulbs started going off for me, and had someone, actually it was Whitney, that asked me, "Who are you good at working with?" And, in considering that and asking, like, where have you had the most success in your work, and what kinds of clients have you had the most success with, I realized, oh, yeah, they're all either people with ADHD or some form of autism in their thinking, and that just became who I related the best to and did the best work with, and so I decided, let me, uh let me point all of my efforts that way. Let me market that direction. Let me get trained as much as possible in that direction, and here we are.
Yeah,
I'd say
yeah,
that was about 8
yeah,
years ago that happened,
yeah.
that I
Right.
started tailoring that.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. People hear on this podcast and others as well, just the importance of developing a niche so that you get to kind of stand out. And I think, like you discovered, what happens is you find the things that you're most passionate about, and that's your niche. Because if
Yeah.
you try to do a niche that you're not passionate about, or even though you might have a lot of knowledge about, that's going to come through eventually that you're just, yeah, just don't enjoy working
Totally.
with those folks. Yeah. But so,
Yeah, and I think with ADHD, it's especially important because if I'm not interested in something, good luck getting me to do it.
right. Yeah. So, yeah. So as you made that discovery about yourself and recognizing that, what have been, I guess this is a really broad question, but what have been some of the key takeaways for you and just being a therapist and what it has meant for, attention during sessions and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're asking about the experience of being a therapist with ADHD, right?
Yeah,
Anything like
right,
that?
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Good question. What was the question again? No, I'm playing. No,
Yeah.
I definitely see the impact. What I will say is that as a creative person, I'm the kind of ADHD, as most people are, that tends to be very creative and somewhat artsy, and I feel like I operate on about 2 or 3 different levels at the same time, and
Hmm.
if I sit down with a client who's like that as well, it's a lot more interesting to me, and it helps me kind of understand what they are probably thinking as well. I feel like I'm always sort of running a creative backlog or a creative backstory, script
Hmm.
behind, what I'm thinking or saying, and then also, and this is, I think, key for the therapist, the ADHD person tends to be very sensitive to rejection and always really careful about how they are presenting.
Hmm.
And so I think that honestly plays right into some of the skills that therapists have to learn how to do.
Hmm.
We can
Hmm.
be vigilant about that or very, very rigidly protecting our image sometime for the client to make sure that they understand, hey, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm being compassionate, and I think we're also extra sensitive to more subtle nuances in the expression of the client that other people might not be.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
how
And
we've
I think,
survived as ADHDers,
uh-huh.
for since, kindergarten or before, that's how we've survived the social setting, is
Hmm.
to be extra aware of potential threats to our personhood.
Yeah. What's it been as you have kind of, and maybe you don't do this, but one of the things that I've always said about being a good therapist is being able to give ourselves some grace to do a little bit of self disclosure about our own struggles and just different life experiences and that sort of thing that are relatable to people. What have you found with that?
I do way too much of it.
Uh,
But I usually find too that after I build up a lot of rapport with a client and I've gotten to know them a good bit, and we're talking, 10, 12 sessions in sometimes, as I start to disclose more of my own sort of experiences here with ADHD, that really it tends to hit home.
mhm,
It tends to be really helpful for the client, and sometimes I'll even get a couple of questions like, "Okay, tell me more about that," you know?
mhm,
So I always wrestle with that because as a therapist, we're told, "Don't do that very often," and I don't think anybody should be that necessarily that blank slate, but also, like, I find that I have to sort of, in my mind, justify why I'm doing it, to
mhm.
measure it to make sure I don't do it too much.
Right. So what sort of tricks and tips and that sort of thing have you learned just with knowing yourself well and just the neurodiversity and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So, one of the things I picked up a long time ago, I like to model it for clients. I teach them, this happens to help me a lot in the sessions, is I'll repeat back under my breath. What's being said, while it's being said, while it's being said. And so it's not something as audible as what I just did, but I may just like in
Mhm.
my mind repeat the last few words. So I make sure that I actually got that it didn't
Mhm.
just hit me and my creative dopamine burst makes it seem irrelevant to me, but that I
Mhm.
actually spend a little bit of time with each word that comes my way.
Yeah.
As much as possible, I like to take a lot of notes, and many times I'll write down something the client said, or I'll write down 2 or 3 points that I wanna make sure I go over with them. Um, so that I've got it, fresh in front of me and I'm certain to return to it.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's kind of just about knowing yourself, I think,
Yeah.
and then trusting yourself. As as our good friend Aaron Potratz from Shrink Thing says,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
you trust yourself to do the right thing in the moment. To trust myself rather than being motivated by the anxiety
Mhm.
to go back and to trust yourself to when the situation arises to do the right thing and to be
Right.
motivated by trusting yourself rather than the anxiety of the moment.
So as you made your way into private practice and you know kind of identified the niche that you wanted to be in, how did things change in your practice for you?
It became less drudgery.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I used to think that, "Oh, yeah, anxiety, just walking around, basic anxiety, yeah, certainly I can treat that," and I guess I can, it's not as interesting to me if it also has unless it also has ADHD mixed in. Depression, kind of the same thing, like, I can coach this person into feeling better, but
Mhm.
if there's not that level of neurodivergence in there, I'm not gonna be as interested, potentially not as effective, possibly, but it's just going to be a lot better if that's mixed in.
Mm.
So once I sort of embraced that and realized that I can take this element of myself and bring it into the therapy space, it it was a scary kinda transition because I didn't know if I was ever gonna get clients. But then
Mhm.
you find that there's a lot of people out there that are looking for that, and
Mhm.
it's a pretty good resource once you sort of build a name for yourself within that niche. Does that make sense?
Alright. Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, and I think it's like we've said already, I think people connect with that because it's genuine. So, as you structured your practice, how have you done that in a way that kind of helps kind of your style and that kind of thing? Yeah.
So I tried hiring an assistant. I tried
Mhm.
that for a while. Had in one situation had a just great relationship with an assistant who was able to keep me scheduled and to keep all the billing and everything done. Then it's been really rough once that person had to transition out. It's been a little bit rough to try to stay on top of those things myself and other
Mhm.
efforts, to bring someone in. So I'd still love to have an assistant, but that was a huge, I think, key piece to keeping myself
Mhm.
on board,
Yeah.
and to keep myself, productive and profitable. Other than that, I'm relying a lot too on, the schedule yourself feature, in my
Mhm.
EHR, where
Yeah.
a person can log onto my website, they can go through that to get to my EHR to schedule their own appointment.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then, I think anybody, I wind up spending a lot of time, texting people about appointments. Like
Mhm.
they're asking me, "Hey, can I get an appointment in?" And I'm replying back to, all the possible times. And I'd love to have everybody able to go schedule their own appointment,
Mhm.
but it doesn't typically work like that.
Right. Right.
They,
Yeah.
which is fine. I get it. If I was
Mhm.
the client to that therapist too, I think I would want that more individualized service even on the
Sure.
scheduling end.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things I've learned in just working with people and just my own experience in private practice, I think a lot of times people wait too long to outsource things that are things that they're maybe doing themselves. That part of it is you feel like you can do it better than somebody else that you hire, or all the different reasons. But I think that's one, having somebody do the scheduling is one really low hanging fruit, and being able to make your practice not only more sustainable but also more profitable in a way, because our money is made with our, but as I like to say, butts in chair, and that's how
Yeah.
we, yeah, kind of do things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So important to have that flow. And then several streams flowing into that.
right.
I've gotten in with an EAP that I love that sends me a lot of clients. I use Headway. Headway sends a good portion of
Mm-hmm.
clients. Then, I've been able to market myself online, all the social media platforms, a website, to be able to get all of that, putting myself out there, even using a lot of AI channels recently to try to put myself out there
Mm-hmm.
as findable and market myself as a hopefully pretty skilled person.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, I know you mentioned AI, and I think that's been a huge game changer for us in a lot of different areas. And one in particular of having AI admin staff. I'm kind of a shout out here to my good friend Uriah Guilford, who's also good friends with that. We have a little consultants group that gets together with Whitney and Uriah and Allison Pigeon. And so one of the things that Uriah has been working on is having an AI powered administrative assistant that does the scheduling and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just amazing what can be done with all of that.
Yeah, and frankly, I kinda hate
Yeah,
it.
I know it. I know it. I know it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Like, um, and I have more of a, I guess it's more of a personal distress for it because 'cause I'm from a county that's literally being taken over right now in pursuit of a data center down in South Georgia where I grew up. There's
I
this
get.
massive, like, lots of stuff going on. I won't get into the politics of it, but, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Uh-huh.
love the easiness that it brings. I hate some of the environmental impact that
Yeah, very good
yeah,
point. Very good point. Yeah, and I think that's something we're going to have to weigh out over time. And I think too, I think ultimately where we'll land is people want to have that human touch as opposed
yes.
to just something artificially generated or whatever. But yeah,
I
yeah.
think the other piece there is that because I work with a lot of ADHD people, like, probably 80 about 80% of my caseload is someone who qualifies as having ADHD. That means too that I work with a lot of computer engineers, computer
Mm-hmm.
programmers, software engineers, and
Right.
so many of my clients are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna have a job next month." So I'm experiencing this sort of, like, fallout
Yeah.
of, within
Yeah.
AI of AI is taking my job. Not me
Right.
personally, but that's what I'm hearing from many clients. And
Right.
so, all
Right.
that said, I'm actually quite hesitant to use, AI in my business, even though I know inevitably I will wind up using it more, but,
Mm-hmm.
definitely not there yet.
Right. Well, that's
But in the
fair.
marketing
That's
piece,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a yeah, it's and I think I know that we didn't intend for this episode to be about AI, but I think the full potential of it is yet to be found, and so I think
Yeah.
it's going to be yeah, it's going to be interesting stuff for sure. So
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm a little bit
so
of a loose cannon sometimes. It's Friday and I've done like a bunch of sessions.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, I get it, I'm the same way. I've not been diagnosed with ADHD, but I noticed that I have a lot of those tendencies as
Sure.
far as getting easily distracted, especially if it's something I find interesting or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
so what? Yeah, I guess to get back and kind of a little bit back on topic, what sort of when you with your clients with this, the whole neurodiversity thing, what do you find that most people tend to struggle with or come to you for help with most of the time?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I found this before I was treating ADHD and also now that I kind of specialize in that, a lot of times people want skills that they'll come in and they're wanting skills because that's kind of what I think even an AI chatbot or the Google would tell them that, okay, this is what needs to happen. More often than not, though, we wind up, pursuing like that healing therapeutic alliance, the clinical relationship becomes what's actually effective. I think one of the biggest things that people come in for is like organizational kind of life skill level stuff. And the thing about ADHD, and this is kind of sort of the magic bullet, is that it's generally emotional hijacking that causes the distraction. And this is where Ed Hollowell, who wrote ADHD 2.0, who I love that book. It's most of what I do comes from that book.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about emotional hijacking, meaning that the what's called the default mode network hijacks the ability to focus on something. And the result there is rumination and brooding and spinning off and the distraction comes from not being able sometimes to manage the emotion that I have around the thing, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore it's hard for me to focus on doing the thing. Or if I'm trying
Right.
to do my spreadsheet at work and there's something going on at home that's a high conflict, all I can think about is that I can't focus on the spreadsheet I'm trying to do at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't have
Well,
to be
that.
negative stuff. It can be like really like positive, like
Mhm.
inspirational, happy, feel good stuff too that can really hijack our focus because we feel strong emotion towards the thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing is that that whole self dialogue around what's happening that
Yeah.
gets in the way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And how much bandwidth does even the dialogue take up? Usually a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot with
Mm-hmm.
ADHD too. There's a separation from the relationship with the self. Like the key part of ADHD is that I have worried so much, or I have oftentimes kicked myself so much, beat myself up so much that I don't have much of a relationship with the person inside my chest, what I want, what I feel, what my dreams and goals and visions are. And I may lay that down for someone else or lay that down for what my boss wants me to do and never actually, connect here. There's not a lot
Mm-hmm.
of kind of slow it down, connect on a deep level with myself kind of energy. It's more like in the
Right.
moment, more spastic, meet the demand at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think of that self awareness would be pretty huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see that in relationships a lot of times where the one partner lays down what they want just entirely for what the non ADHD partner wants.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go through decades like that sometimes and kind of realize, oh, I don't quite know who I am because I've not been
Mm-hmm.
actually paying attention to the person inside
Right.
my chest.
Yeah. What sort of grounding stuff do you find helpful for people?
It really comes down to understanding when it's happening again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Se secret answer all the time.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but really, like, Hollowell talks about this too in his book. It's this awareness of, "I'm doing it again. Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it again. I am letting myself spin. I'm letting myself get too far down the rabbit trail."
Right.
Um, and that awareness means that you can realize now that you're aware that you're doing it again, you can realize, "Oh, my brain is going too fast right now. I need to slow myself down."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I like to use, the example of an upside down bicycle.
Mhm.
And I sometimes, if I teach this, I'll actually bring a bicycle to the
Uh-huh.
demonstration, but upside down bicycle, the handlebars and the seat are on the ground between us, and then the wheels are sticking up. If I take the pedals and I spin them, the back wheel might go 80 miles an hour. Now move that inside your head, and the speed that your brain is going right now at this moment is the speed of the back wheel. And then you realize
Mhm.
my thoughts and my feelings are what's pedaling that wheel. What are the
Mhm.
thoughts I need to come off of? What are the thoughts I need to turn down? I need to
Mhm.
reduce energy flow to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would think that takes an incredible amount of practice to be able to do that.
It does. Yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are just not developed to the point that they can do that yet.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's a long, slow process of helping people, number 1, say, "Oh, I'm doing it again," and number 2, find ways to calm themselves down to the point that they feel
Mhm.
like they're at the control panel. They're at the executive function level that they can control where their energy goes.
Martin, this is fascinating stuff, and I wish we had more time to talk about all of this, but any parting thoughts, and also tell folks how they can reach out to you if they'd like to and learn more about your work.
Yeah, yeah. I think, parting thoughts would be if you are someone with ADHD or living with someone with ADHD or with autism, you know, don't give up on yourself. Keep investing in yourself, keep exploring, learning, doing what you can to get an idea for how to control this. With ADHD in particular, we talk a lot about taking back control. And, there's thankfully, ADHD 2.0, the book by Ed Hollowell has, so many pointers on how to take back control. So highly
Yeah.
recommend that. I can be reached largely through my website, which is www.stillwatercounselingatl.com. I'm also on, Instagram, Facebook, Psychology Today, I think Therapy Tribe. I think I'm still on Therapy Tribe, and
Okay.
several other
Okay.
platforms. You Google me, you'll find me. Martin Altman,
No.
LPC.
Awesome. Awesome. And we'll have links here in the show notes and the show summary to Martin's things. So, well, Martin, thanks so much for being on the podcast. Oh, and I wanted to mention on Martin's podcast, he's got a lot of blogs there that are really
I do,
helpful
yeah. The website, yeah.
kinds of things. So yeah, want to shout out for that. But yeah, hopefully we can have another conversation here soon, Martin, and I'm sure we'll see each other in different conferences and stuff in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. I appreciate it.